Chapter 16. Horse People. Alright, Jack. Now Baba Pop was really affected by the situation. And he looked like a sad old man wearing a vagina for a hat, waiting for his last supper. This part is so secret that I don't even know anything. And if what I don't know at some point comes back at me, I'll just say that I don't know. But anyhow, Baba Pop continued, with his crap-filled vagina hat and sad eyes. Some unknown personnel on the government's payroll has been a part of an experiment under a black project run by an agency within a secret federation formed by unknown governmental officials, appointed by the governor of Alaska, the meanest stinky-ass bitch ever to have set foot on Mother Earth. And Bob knew, because he had half his head up her anus, to become the chairman of the FBI, the Federal Butt Inspectors. But this secret organization ran a breeding program to be able to control them rednecks in a more efficient way. Their plan was to diminish the population, which was rapidly expanding, by birth control. So they had a plan, and they dropped a truckload of condoms at the city limit, with a note that said, "It says in the Bible that all mankind should wear condoms, with banana taste, when having sweet butt sex." But those rednecks didn't know about no bananas, and they haven't had a Bible since the winter of '48, when it was so cold they had to burn everything in order to stay alive, including all their Bibles. In fact, it was so cold, they even had to burn their houses and their clothes. There were not many survivors that cold winter, but those guys just didn't want anything from the outside, Bob continued. Some of the rednecks thought it was great big fun to use the condoms as little hats for their ding-dings, just for show off, when it was raining. So you can see, Jack, it wasn't a success. Next plan was to think a little more creative. They called for the smartest men on the continent, and after years of studying rednecks they came up with a brilliant idea. Horse ass. And they sent in an undercover agent who told them about a new Vatican decree that said that all mankind should cut out a horse's ass and put it on his wiener, and wear it when he's having sweet butt sex. That way they won't repopulate. And Jack, here we come to a point where things take a turn. Because now it was alright with the Vatican and the Pope, who can talk to God. They were no longer living in sin, because horses made them super horny. So, those badass mean old nut-kicking rednecks just started humping horses all over the place, without cutting their asses off first. And the horses got pissed off. I mean really super pissed off. But the rednecks didn't mind. They just kicked their horse nuts and humped their butt. And they loved it very much. Now it was alright with God. And you know, Jack, with so much love, babies just happen, just like baby Jesus, coming out of the butt, with crap on his nose. Now you could really see how much impact this whole story had on poor Baba Bob. He didn't look good. In fact, he looked like a sad old vagina with a stinky diaper. It was almost like his cell structure was changing, modulating into an actually vagina, wearing a stinky poo diaper for a hat. It's a very rare disease, called vagitis. You'll get it if you spend too much time with goddamn Nazi hippie beavers, who won't stop nagging till you poo grass. Poor old Bob continued, now having some difficulties pronouncing the words according to the change of his cell structure. But he managed to hang in there. Jack was really worried about his condition. If this upcoming attack of vagitis will proceed, it could have fatal consequences. He could go in deep hibernation for several years. It's like one big stinky vagina in a coma wearing a diaper for a hat. And it's just plain nasty. And, Jack thought, it's all that sensitivity. Too much and too little is bad for both. And maybe Baba just had the wrong job, and the wrong woman. Maybe he was supposed to run around on a gay camp with a peacock feather sticking out his backside, with all the other guys, and once in a while give each other a little gently not pinch with respect for all mankind. But, despite his condition, Bob kept on telling the story, trying to ignore his partly transformation into female genitals. You know, old friend, said the sad vagina, those horse babies that came out of that experiment were the best nut kickers ever seen. They have an outer-worldly speed and velocity in their kickin'. The survivors have cautiously estimated their kick to be 50 times a grown man. And you know that it's lethal beyond 5. It's 10 times lethal doses, and it's so fast that your eyes just can't follow. And if you try, they start to bleed. Imagine that. 50 grown men are kicking you in the nuts at the same time. Jack, we're talking serious nut kicking here. They are about 8 feet tall badass redneck pissed off horse people with hoof feet that kick each other's nuts for fun. And you know that we can't just nuke them. They'll scare off the missiles like stinky vaginas, and they'll turn right back at us. The only way to get them down is a good old center kick, smack dab right on the ball sack. How about that? Jack could now see that Bob was so emotional about the whole situation that his vaginas grew stronger by the minute, and it was very hard to understand him. So Jack leaned his ear up to that weird-looking vagina man wearing a poo for a hat. Beep-o-poo Bob Pop continued, now transforming himself into a full-blown pussy. This is serious, Jack thought. But Bob continued. The high-ups can't live with no control, he said. So they called for help. And they gathered the best scientists from the best universities to come up with a plan. And after 2 decades of debating and experimenting with crap, they had a plan. Good Rub Nut Oil, a brand new product invented by scientists from the Goodyear Corporation. It's mostly based on coconut oil, and the other ingredients I don't know about. But the thing about this oil is that if you heat it up to 2,567 degrees and put it in the freezer overnight, you'll get a substance that's literally everlasting. And Jack, we want you to travel up there in disguise with a barrel of Good Rub nut oil, heated up to 2,567 Celsius, and tell the pissed off horse people to stick their wiener down there and put it in the freezer overnight. Like a permanent condom, resistant to the daily impact from all the nut kicking they love so much. So Jack, said Bob, or what was left of him. He was now completely turned into one big man-sized nasty beaver, with nasty ugly beaver hair all over the place, and weird monster animals lived in there feeding on nasty slime and little children. It was a very scary sight to see a full-grown man turn into a nasty beaver in no time. At that point Jack had to call the paramedics. This was a really bad example of vagitis. And Bob was now laying on the floor, and with the last of his strength he said, "So again, Jack, your mission is to go up there, stick their ding-dings in hot nut oil, and put it in the freezer overnight. And if they don't go along, kick 'em in the nuts. No more babies." He gave Jack an envelope and said, "Read this when you're well out of town. These are further instructions." And then he went in a coma. Jack tried CPR on the vagina man, but it didn't really work. And you can't do mouth-to-mouth on a hibernating vagina, 'cause they make those funny sounds when you blow. And if you hear that and ain't laughing, you just ain't human. But at that time the paramedics came and put old Bob out of his miseries with an injection of rat poison. And the nice paramedic said, "When vaginas get this far, you just have to die." Because his wife's vagina's been in a coma for several years, and he tried all kinds of stuff to wake it up. So a deadly injection is by far the best solution, recommended by doctors all over the world, to save man from being a big giant pussy with a funny hat. Jack was left alone in the office for the second time while they were carrying Bob out. Pop out. Jack knew that this one would take all he had. But this was the last one, and he couldn't wait to get out of this whole mess. And, for now, we've got to leave Jack and check out on little Gonzo in the Big Date Valley to see how it's going.